My name is Brenda Van Zuden. I was born June 4th, 1947 in Montgomery, Alabama. My parents were a lot older when they had me, so I was their last child. I had two sisters that were like a lot older than I was, so I was the baby for quite a while. Patsy and Peggy were my sisters. Patsy was like 2 years between Peggy, but being that they were much older than I was, they grew up and left home while I was still very young. Well, I guess as a normal small child, I like to do a lot of things. I like to play outside. I love to make mud pies when I was a little girl, and pretend like you're cooking. So I guess little girls kind of look at trying to live as a homemaker at that time. Well, my dad was a hard worker. We didn't have a whole lot of money when I was young, so my mom and dad both worked, but my dad worked the hardest, and I seemed to be his pick, I guess, because I was his child. But he worked in a factory, managed a whole group of people, and he used to sometimes take me across and let me see what he's doing. When I said a while ago that I crossed over to see him while he's working, my mother used to run the little grocery store right across the road from where he worked. And the people, when they got off for lunch, would come over and buy their lunch through where Mother worked, and I was always in there. And they always picked on me. I had lots of hair, and Mother made my dresses, and they were real small and fancy, with lace and frills. And so they'd pay me $0.25 to dance for them. So I would get up on the table and dance. Well, most of my responsibilities were, taking care of the household things as I got older. I didn't have to do a whole lot of cooking, but of course I had to wash dishes and make my own bed and get myself ready for school. As I was growing up, things were a lot different back then. I ended up being a latchkey child, which when I came home from school, I had to lock myself in, the house and stay there, and I wasn't allowed to go back out until my parents got home. But I always had things to do. I did my homework like I was told, and I would do things in the house for my parents, take care of things for them. But I was told never to answer the door, by myself, and let anybody come in. You just have to ignore the doorbell or whatever. So anyway, my normal chores were taking care of the house, making the beds, cleaning the bathrooms, and partially, I guess, I would start sometimes to cook, but I didn't really learn to cook at that point. Where I went to my favorite school that I went to was, of course, high school. I went to some good schools, and middle school I played basketball because I was tall and thin. And I liked my high school even better because I loved math, and the more I got involved in math, that expanded me. And I got to be in the band. I was a baton twirler, and I also belonged to a group that's called the Flamettes, so that when we went on the football field, we would twirl our batons and we would light fire with them. So I learned how to handle that and do that when I was that age. So I really enjoyed my high school year, and also I love music, so I was involved in singing. The time I was in high school, I had a role model when I was taking singing, and I really loved the singing of Sandy Patty. She sang a lot of Christian music, and she was a soprano like me, and I loved her voice, so I kind of took to try to sing like her. I took lessons, and I did sing opera some in high school while I was there. I didn't have electronics to do everything for me. Didn't have phones. Hardly had a TV. I think the first TV we ever had was in 1955, maybe. And I thought that was the greatest thing that ever happened because we always had to listen to stuff on the radio. My first job that I ever had that I liked, I was 14 years old. Wasn't really supposed to be working, so at that time I had to have a work permit from my parents saying that I could work. But I held down a bookkeeping job for a business and kept the man a set of books for him because I loved the math. First big purchase, I guess, would have been my automobile when I got my license and went to driving. It was my perfect car that I had wanted. It was a '64 Malibu Super Sport, anniversary gold that year. Beautiful. So I thought I was really something, you know, driving around in that. I didn't know my grandparents. All my grandparents, except for one, died before I was ever born. But my father's mother is one of them that died, and they tell me that I'm a lot like her. I got my hair from her, my personality. They say she was very loving and caring of other people, always thoughtful, and I appreciate that. I do believe that my dad was a lot like her, and then I was tall and thin like my dad as I was growing up. So I would have to say it would be my father and my father's mother. Well, you don't like to really think that you do a whole lot as far as qualities about yourself. So, but I've been told that I smile all the time. I've even had people say, how do you smile all the time? I don't understand it. I said, because I'm happy. And I know that I try to be a caring person and, you know, love others and help them with whatever they might need. And, you know, sometimes life is so hard, but, you know, I always felt like you had to think about somebody else's troubles because not everybody, you know, yours is not always the worst you think it is till you meet someone else. And I think that loving, only caring, but to loving too, and to be able to love someone else even if they weren't your own child, and to be able to take them in and care for them, love them. How do I feel about growing old? And what's the hardest? I guess as we grow old, we start to see signs in our age ourselves. And we wonder how other people look at us or think of us. But I've always had a wonderful thought about living, that it was a time of joy and not to be worried about how I really look as far as if I wrinkle or, you know, something wrong here. I'm thankful that God has blessed me that I myself don't see myself as old as I am. And I do feel good about myself, but there are times, you know, now at my age that they put you on medication for everything. You know, if you have a toe ache or if you have a headache, you're going to have to take something for that. So it's kind of clarity of life, you know, how it's going to happen to you. But the best thing is I'm still here, I still enjoy my life, and I'm happy to be around others my age too, and I love to be around my grandbabies. If I'd have done different of anything in my life to change it, I would have continued with my career in singing. I wanted to sing, I wanted to perform. And that was just one of the things that I really enjoyed doing. And I could have gone to college with it, but me being young, and I was only 17, I was in love, and I thought that was the thing to do, was go ahead and get married. So I gave up my college, and I gave up my career to be a singer. I did get to sing in church and other times, but I used to sing on the radio in Montgomery when I was a little girl. And it was like a Christian pop singing station. I guess the most difficult time in my life, really a difficult thing, was to lose my father. He was very ill, had cancer, and my mother and he lived with us. At the time he was really sick, and I knew he was getting worse, and he would hurt, he would cry out at night, And I prayed, to God to not make it so painful on him. But I don't think he really wanted to go to the hospital. He was still staying at home. And I went in to see him one morning, and he said he didn't feel real well that morning. And I said, what seems to be the problem? He said he just felt sick, and I reached and he had a fever, and he needed his bed changed. So I asked my husband to come change the bed while I held him, and I picked him up in my arms and held my father because he lost so much weight. It was so sad to see that I had to send him to the hospital, and once we did, he never came home. What do I remember about you when you were born? That was the most wonderful moment in my whole life, to see that precious baby girl. I always wanted a little girl, and I finally got a little girl. So I felt so blessed, and God was so good to me to let me have such a wonderful person like you in my life. What advice would I give you for your life and your generation? First of all, depend on Christ, trust in Him. He will lead your way. Be honest. Have desires to do something good about yourself. If there's a goal that you have in your life, try to make that goal. Don't let other things come in between you and in the middle and change it. Always be sure that you're happy and that this is what Christ wants you to do. Because Christ will lead you down the right path. He will lead you to the right man that you will marry one day. But you have things that God has given you a gift to do. You need to learn what your gifts are and apply your gifts. The whole society of young people need to see what's important and inspire others to do the same. Always be open-minded and talk. Don't keep things inside. Talk to God, and God will lead you as to what to say to others. So I think for you, I would like you to do what you're wanting to do for college, what you want to become. You're just 16, and you've got a lifetime. And I know that you will end up one day marrying a good man. But first of all, think of your goals and how you can better do them and do them in a Christ-like way.